Hello, everyone. Welcome to our planetary panel of this month of February of 2023. We've got our panel guests with us here today. We've got Tracey Eaton, we've got Susan Lord, we've got Tanya Olskamp. And so let me share my screen here and let's get into it. And so let us look at the upcoming February time period, coming into the whole entire month of February. We're very much connected to, I'm playing around here because this is our first time in doing this. Looking at the whole month of February. Now, one of the things we did last month was we actually looked at a word and what word we would use to overshadow looking forward into the month. Tanya, what word did you choose?
I chose the word turmoil.
Turmoil.
Yeah.
Tanya's going to take us from the 16th to the 23rd of February. We'll learn more about her turmoil then. Tracey, what's your word?
I think I'm going to go with transition again. I think I've done 2 months of transition, and it seems like this month is where, the first half is very different than the second half, and we're really trying to, shut things down in order to go forward. Just got to get to March.
And just like in January, Tracey's going to take us from the very beginning of the month, from the 1st to the 7th. Susan, you're taking us from the 8th to the 15th. What's your word?
My word is cooperation, because during my week I have the pairing up of a whole bunch of different planets, and so they're all cooperating with each other, hopefully.
Excellent. All right. And I'm going to, as your host, wrap it up at the very end from the 24th to the 31st. And I've called my word foreshadowing. I think just like we've sort of given a bit of an indication there that, March is going to be a very big turnaround. Watch out for our words for March. But what we're going to see is that I think February is going to give us a little bit of that whole foreshadowing as we move our way into March. So Tracey, why don't you lead us off there with your particular week and tell us what we can expect there.
Sure. So I'm starting with the first week of the month, and it's kind of quiet. I mean, Mercury only talks to one planet, Venus only talks to one planet, the sun and moon only talk to one planet. It's like everybody has one job, but it kind of takes a couple days in order to build up and get the job done. Okay, so on the first, this is Wednesday, middle of the week. We've come off a really long weekend of a lot of mindset work. Okay, we've done a lot of, we've changed our minds. We had a big weekend with the sun squaring the nodes, which brought in this really big kind of like spiritual questioning of where we're going, where we're coming from, and just really asking us to make a new decision or make the new mindset.
Ooh.
Yeah. And
is it futuristic mindset, you think?
Well, sure. I mean, where are you coming from versus where are you going? And, some people will go back into their comfort zone, and other people will, be really excited to go towards the future. So, yeah, it's kind of, we have this day with the sun squaring the nodes twice a year. So it's a little bit kind of like a wobbly period of, I'm kind of lost. I don't know which way to go. So, but we've come off that from the weekend. Okay. So we're probably getting there. We're probably going forward. Okay. The sun is also, it had made a trine to Mars. So that was a very nice connection to get some action going. Okay. So we probably are already in a period of momentum here. And, Mars and Gemini talking to the sun in Aquarius, this is all about like social groups and social connections, social networking even. So this, we're probably really focused on who we're talking to and who we're making plans with and how we're getting all of our information connecting.
And especially since Mars had done so much of that retrograding, right?
Yeah, right. And on the same day, the moon will be trining Saturn, and it brings in a really, more serious and intellectual kind of tone. And what information that we've been exchanging with these groups, like now it's time to do the work, and it's a really good work day. So I think, keep up with the momentum from that weekend in midweek. And I think it's great for us to, make some changes. So, and then going into the 2nd on Thursday, the sun is starting to build up to a square with Uranus. And I'll start talking about that later in the week, but that's kind of the main show this week, is building up towards something that we might be feeling like revelation or change is right around the corner. And that might be true. I don't think it's super dramatic, but I do think there is disruption around the corner, and disruption requires you to act. So I don't think the whole world is going to change, but I do think something's going to disrupt your day.
And
Okay?
so do we like squares? Do we not like squares? What do we think of squares?
Squares bring tension. Squares require you to act, but squares are things, you're familiar with it. It brings in things that you are familiarly, battling against. So they are surmountable. We can work with them.
Right.
So I do believe that squares are productive. So yeah,
not with ease, but not with ease, right?
No. And especially not with Uranus, because Uranus doesn't have an agenda. Uranus just disrupts. He doesn't disrupt for good. He doesn't disrupt for bad. Just the lightning storm, right? Just cause an action. So on Tuesday, it's really just a moon day. Okay. The moon goes into Cancer, and it's going to be trining Venus. Okay. So both of these planets, the moon is in its home, it's in its domicile, and Venus is like the royal guest of Pisces. She's treated with exaltation there. Mm-hmm. So this is a really big day of very, huge expressions of, watery, weepy, dreamy, intuitive, lovely. I've been saying like the ushy gushy smushy, kind of day. It can be very impassioned and very just lovely, very nice spiritual day.
And it creates a grand trine with that south node.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the moon will be squaring Jupiter. And anything Jupiter touches is a magnifying glass. So this might be a day of really big emotions. Okay. Jupiter might just push you over the edge here. It might just be like too much of a good thing, or, we get really indulgent. We lay on the couch all day, or, not a bad thing at all. Just, Jupiter adds fuel to the fire, or, in this case, to the water. So it's just a lot of expression today. And then the moon will be sextiling a little supportive aspect to Uranus. So here's Uranian energy again, where Uranus is going to say, oh, that's a good idea. Eat more chocolate, sit in front of the TV, veg out. And Uranus might be a little bit erratic. That might disrupt our day when we just want to indulge.
Spend some money.
Yeah, there you go. Uranus kind of brings erratic energy, whereas Jupiter kind of brings like manic or more. So yeah, it's an easy day. Like I said, just a moon kind of day, just a mood. That's just a mood. And then when we go to Friday, this is where the sun makes the actual square to Uranus. And this is going to travel throughout the weekend. This at 14, 15 degrees is the most potent degree for fixed signs. So that's the Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, and it's only going to get stronger during the full moon. Okay. So this is like, it brings erratic and out of nowhere behavior from people. And you can even think of like people in positions of power, as we get into the full moon and we're highlighting some of this Leo energy. It's like our bosses or, solar figures, powerful people are just kind of changing their mind. And we're like, that throws me off. That's not what I was expecting. You know, it can be very disruptive, but it can also bring very creative breakthroughs and like things just go together, or we get this big download of genius at the moment. So it's not bad. Like I said, Uranus is very neutral. He's just going to disrupt you. He's not bringing any other kind of crazy idea with him.
And
then,
Uranus likes to work with Aquarius, right?
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. He's the bringer of all the electrical impulses in Aquarius. Yeah, definitely. And then on this day, I'm starting to look at Venus is going to start squaring Mars. She's not there yet, but she's starting to apply. And at the same time this is happening, the moon is going to be opposing Mercury and Pluto. Okay, so all of this, you know, we're starting to bring in tensions and we're starting to bring in oppositions that were, you know, are harder to reconcile. And it's like, we start to get into my head and my heart are just at odds. I'm thinking differently than I'm feeling. You know, I have a really grounded mind with Mercury, but, you know, I'm sensitive. Venus and Mars, it's all about pleasure and passions and desires. So there's some things about, I don't know, like the tension in the air, right? Do I even like this thing anymore? You know, bringing in Pluto also brings in truth. So are we seeing the truth of something that I was really romanticizing before? And maybe I don't like this thing anymore. And now what do I do? Okay. And so it's this whole space of like illusionary tension and communication. Is it really real? Am I really excited about this thing because it's a real thing, or is it just in my head? So it's kind of a strange day. I would say a good way to kind of outlet some of this energy and this crazy kind of expression is like getting into art. And I've been saying, like, get into rage art if that's what you're feeling so tense about, you know, like paint your feelings, throw some things at a canvas, or, you know, like just get it
versus
out.
a person, you mean?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So I think that's great. It's a great time to just move the tension out in, you know, creative outlets. So, and what do my feelings look like versus what do they feel in my body? You know, 'cause we don't want to blow a gasket. You know, we have this Uranian energy building up, but we don't want to just be crazy with it. So going into Saturday, the moon moves into Leo and we're building up to the full moon. Okay. So we're starting to get a little more intense. We're building and building. Okay. Venus and Mars are completely partile now. They're completely together. And Jupiter is going to be trining the moon. So Jupiter is adding more fuel to the fire, very fiery. Okay. So Venus and Mars, they're kind of playing cat and mouse here. You know, there's the chase. It's interpersonal tension, and
Plus it's the masculine and the feminine, right?
And then Jupiter is kind of spreading the wildfire. We're getting hot. We're getting feisty. Are we making things worse? You know, are we fighting for our dream, or are we fighting for a delusion? You know, does it turn into something that's really ego-like? Are we getting selfish about something? You know, tomorrow's full moon is really going to show like both sides of the fight. So yeah, kind of another testy day, right?
And moon in Leo is all about the love, the feelings of the heart.
Right. Yeah. Moon in Leo, it's pretty,
romantic.
Yeah. Well, it's dramatic, but it's about the self. It's very generous. You know, so yeah, it's not a super tough lesson we're learning here. So, but there are, you know, emotions that come with it. So, and on Sunday we get into the full moon. Okay, the moon is going to be talking to Mars. Venus is still talking to Mars, and Venus and Mars are the only mutable energy here. You know, it's the only flexible, adaptable kind of stuff. But there,
so what signs are mutable?
Mutables are the Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, and Sagittarius. And all mutable means is they can adapt versus fixed, or versus I must go forward, I must initiate. So mutables can adapt. So that's good when we're talking about this tension. Okay. But I'm not sure if it's going to be strong enough to help with this full moon. I think when we wait later in the week, I think we might, make a little bit more headway. But right now, under the full moon, we have the sun in Aquarius and the moon in Leo, and everything is squaring really tightly that Uranus. Okay, so Uranus and Aquarius, the sun in Aquarius, like we're at the coldest time of year. We're in like the midsummer's day, is that what they call it? The one of those witchy seasons, right? And this is a full moon that can bring power outages and can bring, kind of like seismic activity and just weird electrical things, can bring ice storms.
ATMs going down.
Sure. Yeah. Anything electrical, electrical systems in the world, electrical systems in the body, just weird, spasms even. And anything touching Uranus is chaotic, disruptive. It's full of drama. The full moon is always bringing in, building up drama. And we're in Leo. Leo wants all the eyes on it anyway. So it is kind of a big, I think it's more inflamed rather than like scary. I don't think this is a very harsh kind of moon. I think it's something more like personal. I think we're just kind of full of drama. Everybody wants to be seen. It's not super, I don't think it's very profound. I don't think it's very life-changing. It seems like it's going to be petty disruptions, and maybe even entertaining with the drama that we're witnessing. Or if nothing else happens, you can be like, oh, that's the thing that, kind of ruined my plans for the night. Like, I don't think it's going to be that big deal of a full moon, but, Leo is pretty lighthearted, but this is fixed energy. So like if anybody has planets around this 15 degrees, universe is coming for you this weekend a little bit. Shake up your foundations just a little bit. We need it. The fixed signs need that. But with this moon, being a full moon, we can look at a couple different cycles here. We can go back to the new moon in Aquarius, and what kind of projects were we starting back at, I think it was like January 21st, 22nd with the new moon. And if you use the longer, the greater lunar cycle, we would even look back to the new moon in Leo last year. I think it was July 28th, 29th, end of the month. And I looked back to that, and I'll be darned, like I am doing the same things now as I started back in Leo. And almost the same, it blows my mind how we're always, this inner timing is always perfect.
But we also have Jupiter back to that time too. Jupiter was
right,
back at 6 degrees Aries then, it had gone forward, backed up. Now we're still working our way through a lot of stuff that we were working on last summer.
Right. And this is an eclipse point too. We had an eclipse on November 8th.
That's right.
And that was during the US elections. And, it was really unexpected energy around there. Like some people really got hit, or they got hit all at once. And some people were like, nothing happened, but I'm waiting for it. And so this is another time to check in what was going on at the beginning of November too. This might be, kind of the next progress point.
Yeah, because there was a lunar eclipse there at 16 degrees Taurus, which is exactly where that Uranus is, right? So there may be an unexpected event that actually will take something from us, which may be a good thing, take something from us that we've been sort of sitting on and deciding, should I, shouldn't I? Universe works in very mysterious ways sometimes.
Yeah, and then going into the 6th, I'm kind of looking at this whole next week as kind of like a reconciliation period. And I think by the end of the week, we'll be able to look back and be like, oh, that was easy. But it's like each day has such a different lesson in order to get us to the end point. It's almost like each day is a different stage of grief we have to go through in order to get this whole thing done. So this is going to be this big reconciliation of, was I fantasizing this whole thing? Was this thing that I was battling with and with other people, like, is it really real? Or am I still going to continue this? So, it has to do with fantasies and wounds too. Like how much crap did we just stir up, kind of fighting for our passions that were kind of delusions, to start with. So it's a good week to kind of reconcile some of that. And make peace. So on Monday, it's a very moon day again. The moon is going to be making a really technical aspect with Neptune and Mercury, and it's called a yod. Okay, and this just kind of means it's a stressful aspect. It's like none of these planets see each other directly. Like they're trying to affect each other, but they're just out of alignment. Okay, so this can bring up like stress. We can feel itchy about something, inadequacy. We can be a little bit clumsy. There's going to be some kind of noticed separation between like, I'm really grounded in my thought, but this spiritual fantasy kind of thing is also really important too, but I just can't get it together. The real world and the fantasy world, it's clunky trying to bring it into fruition, in a real world kind of sense. So we're trying to make this dramatic bridge, and it's not happening. And then later in the day, the moon will oppose Saturn. And that's, we start to get that cold recognition, the rejection, the restriction, and it's like, no, we're kind of back to earth. And this is one of our very last moon Saturn aspects. Like we don't have any other full moons with Saturn in Aquarius anymore for 30 years. Like this was our last one. Thank goodness.
I'm done with Saturn and Aquarius.
Yeah, I'm done too. Thanks. Bye. And then the next day, when the moon is in Virgo on the 7th, the moon is going to be squaring Mars and opposing Venus. So now, we're coming full circle here with this tension that we've had this whole week. Now we're starting to get into, it's kind of like the make or break point with this moon in Virgo. Like, it's like I've slept on it. I know what to do. I'm not emotional. Now it's time. I want to improve the situation. This is my last ditch effort to try to reconcile this thing. How can I make it better? Virgo wants to serve, and with service in this kind of tense and passion and desire, like somebody might have to surrender or somebody might have to fall on their sword with it. It might be a little bit of like martyrdom here, but is that what it takes to reconcile? And then later in the day, the moon is going to trine Uranus. And it's like, I'm trying all of the things. I'm going really far out of my comfort zone. I'm really stretching. But I think it'll be beneficial because it kind of lasts a little bit. It'll kind of carry forward this energy into the next day. And, we're starting to pick up more mutability, and, we're less attached to our original mindset that we were, really fixed on during the full moon. So I think we're starting to break it down now and get into the flow. So
Cool.
Very interesting week.
It is an interesting week. There's a lot going on in that
Yeah.
week, and that then leads us directly into Susan's week. Thank you, Tracey.
Oh, yes, my week is starting off with the 8th. It's the middle of the week. And when you look at my week, you can see that there's a lot of pairings of the planets up in up in Capricorn. We have Mars and Pluto. And then we have in Aquarius, we have the Sun and Saturn. And then in Pisces, we have Venus and Neptune. And then in Leo, we have Chiron and Jupiter, and so on down to Taurus, where we finally end up with Uranus and the North Node. So my week is all about the cooperation of each of these pair of planets with each other. It's coming off, the moon is just coming off a couple of days in Virgo, and the way I looked at the moon in Virgo was that she was opposite to the Pisces energies, which might have been causing some emotional confusion, where we might have misunderstood others. And in doing that, we might have the wrong impression of what's happening. And so it was not really a good time to trust our intuition because of that opposition that was going on. And we might also be a little bit blind to deception and lies, making it hard to determine what's fact from fiction. Because normally the moon, when it's in Virgo, it's more composed and not a very impulsive moon.
But it can be very criticizing, right?
I guess, yes, and that's true. It could be very criticizing if you look at that kind of lower vibe of it. So all those little pairs of planets, the only planet that was really, to my mind, standing kind of off by himself was Mars. And even though he's just starting to gain momentum coming through Gemini, he was at 8th degree forever when he came out of his retrograde. He's has a bit of a hard time staying focused in Gemini because he's ruler of Aries, which is a very single-minded energy. And so when he's in a planet that's a duality, or a sign that's duality, he kind of doesn't know, what he wants to think about, or the Gemini curiosity kind of makes him jumping from one subject to another, and he's a little just off once he go ahead.
For me, I found that it just made us do everything twice.
Yes, and I do that a lot because I'm a Gemini. So with Mars and Gemini, I am forever doing everything twice. It's amazing how that happens. But anyway, that's enough about Mars. So I'll move through the days, but I'm really just talking about the pairs of planets. So on February the 9th, when the moon moves into Libra, it gives us a bit more emotional balance and some more loving energy. But so we're coming up, I'm going to talk about Mercury and Pluto coming together in Capricorn. They're not exact right now. Mercury is still approaching, but they'll be exact on the 10th. So this energy allows us to have deep and meaningful conversation. It's good for getting to the bottom of things and finding solutions to problems through study and research. Pluto will have us looking also within ourselves, and maybe even perhaps into the darker side of life. And I mean, we all have kind of things deep within us that maybe should be addressed and aren't always addressed.
Well, he is the god of the underworld, right?
Yes, he is the god of the underworld. Our power of persuasion will be stronger with Mercury's aid. So we do have to be careful of power struggles on an intellectual level. This would probably be more important to people who work, that they're not, at odds with their boss. But as Mercury and Pluto near the end of their time in Capricorn, we may be asking ourselves, like, have we done enough research into the future plans that we've made? Have we checked the stability of those plans and gotten rid of what we don't need so that we can go forward? Pluto on a personal level is very much about digging deep and getting rid of internal toxicity so that we can transform and become our true selves. But Pluto is also very much a generational planet, and he works on a world level. So he's been in Capricorn since 2008, and that's 15 years in the sign of tradition, business, and governance. And
I'm sure our Capricorn friends are very happy to get
yeah.
Can I just say it's been a really long 15 years.
Yeah, he has led the world to examine the integrity of these establishments and religious institutions, and he's been exposing corruption in all areas. So with Mercury beside him, just through this last little bit of Capricorn, might encourage positive communication and investigation into the areas of better health care, better living wages, and for many people, living without violence. So as they both move into humanitarian and technology-oriented Aquarius, their focus and their communication will hopefully be about improvements and solutions in these areas for everybody. So technology will play an important role when they both get into Aquarius. The struggle is real as we go forward. Will we be clinging to the structures and traditions of the past, or will we be looking ahead to the promise of Aquarian freedom? So that's, there are some people that are just gonna, that's where they're at, and that's where they're going to stay forever. They're not going to go ever.
So the question to you is, when Pluto does slip into Aquarius, does it stay there then?
No, he's just going to be in there until June, July, not only a few months. Right. And so he's just kind of dipping his toe in there to see what it's like. And it might be like a breath of fresh air to him. Well, it is, it's an air sign. So it might just be literally a breath of fresh air. And, then he's going back into Capricorn. I'm not, do you know how long he's going back into Capricorn?
Yeah. And then he turns around in late October, mid-October, 10th of October.
Yeah.
And so then he'll go back in December.
Yeah. So he's in there for a few months back into Capricorn, because maybe he's realized, okay, there's still, things that I have to kind of finish up here before.
And this Aquarian energy, maybe I don't like it. Being an Aquarian, I can say that.
Oh, yeah, no, I love Aquarian energy. So next up, I'll move on to February the 10th, not that it really matters about the day. We have the sun is coming up into conjunction with Saturn in Aquarius. So they will be exact at 27 degrees on February the 16th. Saturn has been in Aquarius since March of 2020. And his focus for society has been on creating structures that work within our changing world. I mean, he's worked in creating ways for us to reconnect with our communities during worldwide pandemic. We've all had to adjust in different ways to working and to performing our daily tasks and activities. Our focus has shifted from big business to community and to giving back to community. So the sun's energy, as he joins up with Saturn, is just strengthening that, shining his light on all that Saturn has accomplished. And we can ask ourselves, have we done all that we've wanted to do during this time? Have we formed new alliances with like-minded people?
Mhm.
Have we worked within our communities to make life better for others? Have we improved our own sense of social justice? And have we grown and adapted to the changes along with Saturn? So
And that's
Saturn
because of the Aquarian energy. Is that where you're getting that from?
Yes. Just because most of the time he's been in Aquarius has been the COVID pandemic. So everything had to change, the whole way of, all the businesses doing business, everybody, even, us just going to the store or going to the bank or anywhere, everything sort of changed a lot. In my area, when you go to get gas, because with the big rising price of gas, people were going and stealing gas. So now you have to go in the store, pay for how much you want, and then come out and pump your gas because there were so many people ripping off the little gas stations. So
Okay.
times are different. Then on February the 11th, I'm going into, that's when Mercury enters into Aquarius. So Mercury is exalted in Aquarius. He likes to be there. With this energy, we can draw upon our mental resourcefulness, our inventiveness, and original ideas should maybe come to the forefront. We may become more interested in the occult and in astrology or anything that's in that new age type of realm. Writing and speaking will be more easily to us than when Mercury was in Capricorn. Our conversations will be less concerned about, our own security and stability, and I think more focused on the future and what it holds for us. Aquarius is a fixed sign, so while the curious Mercury mind may be open to new ideas, strong opinions may also prevail. So, there will be, some conversations may not be as pleasant as others.
But Aquarius is also 5 years ahead of the time too. So when Mercury goes into Aquarius, this is where I think we get into those, as you're talking about, futuristic events, right?
Yeah. So hopefully, some of the people that have jobs that to do with like, city planning and different things like that will actually be looking far ahead and trying to solve some of the issues that are out there today. February the 11th to the 12th, the moon is moving into Scorpio for the weekend. So this is giving us a lot more, I think, deeper emotional vibe than that also adds to the watery energy of Venus and Neptune, who are also in the water signs. And so this leads me into Venus, who is hanging out there very close to Neptune. Venus is exalted in Pisces. And so therefore, the energy coming off of Venus for us, we can be more compassionate, caring, helpful, kind-hearted. And as Venus travels through Pisces, we can also find that we're very much attracted to the arts, to poetry and nature. And as she joins up with Neptune, we can also become very dreamy, maybe even too daydreamy. We may be looking at life and our relationships with rose-colored glasses and or be very flirty and sociable, throwing caution to the wind. We will be feeling this energy through the rest of Venus's journey through Pisces, because she'll be in conjunction with her through the whole time. And it's a warm and loving energy, but we should also be aware that we can become disillusioned or overcome by emotional needs when they're both together. We could maybe become like a little lazy and be prone to daydreaming. Positive Neptunian energy can have us realizing our dreams and becoming creative in all the arts. But the negative side of it can lead to self-indulgence and addictions. And we also need to be aware of all the lies and deceit that's out there with any number of scammers that are around all the time. So that's about it for Venus and Neptune. Then February 13th, we come up to Jupiter, who is meeting up with Chiron, the wounded healer. Chiron has been in Aries since 2019, and he will remain there until 2026. So people have a lot of self-healing to do. You know, there's wounds that we've brought through or have come from our childhood that Jupiter might be putting a bit of focus on that. Jupiter is the ruler of fire sign Sagittarius, which is a sign that is about optimism and freedom loving. So he maybe be bringing some positive energy to Chiron. So for the focus of us in our search for our true self-identity. He will encourage us to step out of our comfort zone, to take risks, and to find opportunities that can lead to personal growth and healing. Jupiter is moving slowly, and so this conjunction will actually not become exact until March the 10th, when it's at 14 degrees of Aries. So, you know, people that have anything around that 14 degrees of Aries it might be, you know, a big moment of self-revelation of, oh, you know, this is what's been bugging me all my life, and I can finally see that now maybe I can take steps to get that looked at or fixed somehow. Moving up to February the 14th, which is Valentine's Day, the moon moves into the fire sign of Sagittarius. So the moon in Sagittarius is called the explorer's moon, and it gives us a focus on exploring new journeys, whether they're real or journeys, flights of fantasy in the mind. So it could also bring some fiery fun, some fiery energy into the people who are celebrating Valentine's Day. For example, for the fire element, you could be sitting by a cozy winter fire, or you could have a candlelight dinner, or a passionate night at home. So the moon is in opposition to Mars in Gemini. So hopefully during that day, he will bring in passionate energy to the moment rather than aggressive words or action.
So you could do it twice. You could have 2 nights passionately at home.
Yeah, you could. But you could go out one night, stay home the next night.
That's right.
But sometimes, you know, it's not good for everybody. So, you know, it can be rough for some people. And I have a little quote that I found somewhere, and it just said that the tongue, although it has no bones, can break hearts with unkind words. Mm-hmm. So, you know, people just, you know, have to kind of remember to be nice. Yes. Remember to be nice. So on February the 15th, to end off the week, I decided to talk about North Node and Uranus. Now, they're both in earthy Taurus, and the North Node is now moving further away from Uranus, but it has been hanging out with him for quite some time. And we know that Uranus will be in Taurus until 2026, I believe. So the North Node's purpose in Taurus, North Node, what is it, 2 years, 2.5 years, the nodes stay in each sign? Yeah. So he's still there until the summer, I believe. His journey in Taurus, he has given us the opportunity to discover our own true values and our own self-worth. And North Node wants us to learn to trust ourselves and our abilities and to enjoy the life that we have. Uranus has encouraged us on this journey into self-discovery, as his interest on a personal level is very much about breaking free from the bonds of materialism and debt. Being in Taurus, the sign of the steady bull, urges us to resist change, but Uranus doesn't like to get too comfortable, because that's when we become complacent. So it's a planet that forces us out of our comfort zones and encourages us to change for the better. So while Uranus moves through grounded Taurus, it can rock our foundations in the areas of finances, material possessions, and even our own self-worth. The effects of his transit through Taurus will largely be seen on a global level, because he is one of the outer planets, and we'll certainly feel them personally too, as he is the awakener, and he wants us to awaken to our own true individual selves. Uranian energy is also linked to technology, electricity, storms, and earthquakes. That's my week.
And
Thank you.
interestingly enough, Mercury is in the bendings at the end of that week. Right?
Yeah, so
No, it is in the square. So on that particular day, that 15th, 16th, because it's still going to be there on the 16th as well. We're going to step into yours, Tanya, but Mercury is in the bendings here. And so, you want to be very cautious here about the conversations, because it may not, but it could create a loss for you. Thank you very much, Susan, for your week. And hopefully we didn't step too far into your week, Tanya, because we're looking forward to what you have to tell us now from the 16th to the 23rd.
Awesome. Well, at the beginning of the show, we talked about the fact that I chose the word turmoil to describe the month of February. And I chose the word turmoil because as Tracey was explaining, we have a lot of planets that are making 90-degree angles to other planets in the sky. And so when one planet makes a 90-degree angle to another planet, just like Tracey was describing, we feel a lot of, stress inside and pressure and turmoil. And, this is all happening while all of the planets right now are actually moving in a forward direction for the next 3 months. And when planets are moving forward like that, it's like a big combustion of energy. We're on full speed ahead. We want to get things done and get moving. And so there's just this big energy happening within all of us. And I think, on an intuitive level, we are in line with the planets, so we can sense that we have this short window, this window of opportunity to get things going. And now leading into the third week of February, which I'm going to talk about now, we have a lot of planets starting to move, have either been in Pisces or moving into Pisces. And Pisces energy just wants to relax and chill. But Pisces energy is also, infamous for sacrificing ourselves and inner suffering. So I think that there's the possibility that some of us could take on more than we can chew, or we may have trouble setting boundaries. Some people will feel like, oh, I need to go, 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 but I also really want to relax and go away on vacation, and just maybe even questioning themselves, maybe even doubting themselves, which is also famous Pisces energy.
But this is why we do this kind of thing, so people can know, right, and prepare for that.
Exactly. So on February 16th, the moon is finally making its way over to Capricorn, and it's going to be here for a couple days. And when the moon visits Capricorn each month, it's really not common for us to feel heavily burdened with responsibility. And that moon in Capricorn is also having a tense conversation with Jupiter in Aries on this day, which Holly is showing you there. And Jupiter in Aries wants us to approach our day very courageously, without hesitation, and with lots of optimism. But moon in Capricorn doesn't really like to be all so impulsive, and is quite rational and very different from Jupiter in Aries. But, it can also be a bit moody and somber, in fact. And, Capricorn moon wants us to put our noses to the grindstone and be serious and work really hard the next couple of days. I think the thing that these two can agree on is that they both want to be successful. One wants to be the leader, which is, one wants to be the boss. You guys guess which one is which? Tell me. Tell everybody which one is which.
Well, I think Jupiter really wants to be the boss moving forward in that Aries, right?
Yeah, I think of Jupiter and Aries wanting to be the leader, and I think of Moon in Capricorn wanting to be the boss, so I honestly, I think to make the most of this kind of energy, it would be really great to find a project that you can work hard on, but also independently and, focus on tasks that are going to leave you feeling victorious, over accomplishing a goal. Jupiter in Aries really likes to feel victorious. Another important aspect that's happening on this day involves the sun. And the sun is meeting with the planet Saturn at the same degree in Aquarius. So Susan talked a little bit about this in her weekly review. And they are connecting here together for the last time in the sign of Aquarius, since Saturn moved into Aquarius 2 years ago. And they won't meet here again for another 29 years. So it's kind of a big deal, this energy on this day. I think we're all going to be feeling it. It's like getting our test results back, final semester exam, right? This is a big check-in right now. It's a moment of reckoning for all of us. The sun is asking Saturn, how strong is the foundation you've been building the past 2 years to become, more self-reliant in your life? Maybe it's in your career or in your relationship. Where have you been working really hard and grinding and putting in the time and establishing a firm foundation and creating something lasting to continue into the future, and working really hard in your dreams and long-term goals. And, I think if you've been putting in the hard work the last 2 years and doing so with maturity and responsibility, I really think that, you could see a reward coming to you wherever Aquarius was located in, at the time you were born. And otherwise, I think you could be, it could kind of be a reap what you sow kind of day.
That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really hoping to get a reward. I don't know about you guys. I feel like I've been working really hard. Aquarius is in my 9th house of astrology and studying. So by the time Friday, February the 17th rolls around, Mercury's going to mosey along in the sky in the sign of Aquarius and make a friendly connection with Jupiter and Aries. And I really like this energy. It's optimistic and hopeful and positive. It's quite a forward-thinking energy that wants us to see the best outcome. And this is really the kind of energy that creates opportunities, perhaps from exchanging ideas or problem solving with people like teachers or mentors, maybe a grandparent or somebody with a different perspective and personal experience from you. I also think the 17th is a great day for networking and business dealings or negotiations, especially on endeavors that, are competitive and innovative, which is the innovative being the Aquarius energy. And Mercury in Aquarius really enjoys intelligent conversation. And honestly, Jupiter in Aries won't mind saying it like it is. So as the weekend unfolds, I think we might start to find ourselves retreating a bit, because on February 18th, the sun is now going to move into deeply sensitive and romantic and mystical sign of Pisces for 30 days. I thought Susan did a great job describing Pisces energy. So yeah, now it's happy birthday to all of you Pisces born between February 22nd and March the 20th. This is officially your new fresh start as you travel around the sun for another 365 days. It's very exciting. And for everyone else, the sun is going to light up that area in our birth charts where the sign of Pisces rules. And like I was just saying, Pisces energy is all about, setting boundaries and the need for setting boundaries, I should say. Capricorn is more setting the boundaries. Pisces is all about, no, I need to set the boundaries.
But Pisces
Yeah.
make fantastic artists, right?
Yes.
The creative, the actors, the actresses, the dream interpretation.
Where you can just let the energy flow,
Yeah.
Yeah, and be one with the universe. Yeah, so I do think that Gemini, Sag, Virgo might find the Sun in Pisces energy more challenging because it will be making that 90-degree angle and square energy that Tracey talked about for the next 30 days to wherever, if your Sun is located in Gemini, Sag, or Virgo. But overall, I think Pisces energy, like Holly was just describing, is absolutely fantastic for artistic creations and connecting with music and film, or maybe doing some spiritual or psychological work, relaxing, going on vacation. I mean, is it really any wonder we have spring break, during Pisces season? And, it's also, I think, the height of the flu season too, when Pisces represents, being in the hospital and sick energy. So yeah, it's also going to be a time that we're over the next 30 days that people are going to be, wanting to unwind and travel. The other thing that is Pisces energy is really great for is for being charitable.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so that said, the moon, which rules our emotions and our home life, also moves into Aquarius this day. So while we're slowing down a little bit, we might also feel a little bit restless over the next couple of days. So there's a little bit of, the energy is different between the sun and the moon.
And we're busy.
Yeah. The Aquarius moon is connecting quite nicely there with Mars hanging out in Gemini. So we might want to plan some relaxing activities that are, a bit more spontaneous and mentally stimulating. I think this could be a great day for learning a new skill that is maybe different than anything you've learned before, or taking part in community activities focused on relaxation like yoga or dancing, or I don't know, just even connecting, I think, with a group of friends for something like game night would be great for this energy. And the weekend ends on Sunday with a couple of aspects that are a little bit less fun. So I definitely think the 18th of February is a great day for making the most of the positive, fun energy. On Sunday, the February the 19th, Venus in Pisces, where it loves to be, like Susan was talking about, will connect with Pluto sitting in Capricorn. And like Susan said, Venus in Pisces is all about the pink rosy glasses. And I think you said, Holly, it's, spending money with no idea how much you're spending. It's a bit, yeah. It's about escaping reality and binging on things like our, food, sometimes sex and alcohol and drugs. Now, Pluto in Capricorn wants us to really get to the very root cause of why we become so self-destructive sometimes and undisciplined with these kinds of things. And Pluto's very demanding and controlling. And Pluto can also be obsessive. So I think we really need to be careful not to lose ourselves this day. And I think the other thing is that Pluto, wants us to transform, while Venus wants to kind of shy away from anything stressful. So whatever presents itself on this day, don't shy away from, using both your logic and intuition to help you overcome any adversity or power struggles that pop up in relationships. And just try to approach any dicey subjects that come up this day with some mutual understanding and compassion, which is very much Venus and Pisces. It's a big day because the moon is also going to connect directly with Saturn on this day. And in fact, you can see that this aspect is sandwiched between Pluto and Venus. So I'd say that the moon conjunct Saturn is playing referee or mom. Moon with Saturn is playing referee or mom and dad, who we either find annoying or mildly supportive on this day. Moon Saturn is saying to Venus and Pluto, is this really what you want to do? And don't forget, what happens in the future is built from the past.
Right.
So slow down, take some baby steps there, kids. Mother Moon and Father Saturn could be, shedding some light on all of the fears that we have about taking that next big step towards the future we want. So I think that's quite a big day, and could be quite reflective and deep thinking. It's very deep energy. So if that's not really your game, no worries, because on Monday the 20th, we start the week with a new moon in Pisces. And the new moon will, mark the beginning of a brand new lunar cycle that's just full of that dreamy, creative, and compassionate energy that we've been talking about this whole show. And for those of our viewers who don't know, new moons represent new starts, and they mark the start of a brand new 29 and a half day lunar cycle. And new moons happen when the sun and the moon meet up at the same degree and in the same sign. And here Holly will show you that it's at 1 degree Pisces. And gosh, I really love this new moon. I don't know about you guys, but I really love it. I mean, could there really be any better start to the week than just feeling relaxed and dreaming up all of the possibilities for the next 3 weeks to 6 months?
Hauling out your paints and easel again,
exactly.
or your piano you've not sat at for a while.
Exactly. Whatever seeds we sow, and I'm speaking metaphorically, of course, will culminate at the next full moon or in 6 months' time when we have a full moon in Pisces. And Tracey talked about that too at the beginning of the show. And this new moon is absolutely, Holly, a wonderful invitation to become, to move in new creative and compassionate directions over the next 3 weeks or 6 months. And, I think artists and healers and mystics will especially love this new moon. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised, though, if we see some news breaking connected to hospitals and new programs or initiatives related to mental health around this time.
Say mental health, yeah.
Yeah, I really think that we might see something emerging, also about the healthcare crisis that's happening here in Canada right now. So we really could see some developments happening there. And I think I was just watching the news and sort of got an inkling that this was already in the talks. So I think we're going to see some news breaking around that time. On a personal level, we could be asking ourselves, things like, where in my life am I feeling the need for more solitude? Where can I be more charitable or warm and caring and concerned for the welfare of others? Where in my life can I make some sacrifices for the betterment of other people? So, now on this day, Jupiter, who is hanging out in Aries, is also the ruler of this new moon, and he's feeling quite bold and courageous at the moment. So Jupiter is saying to all of us, like, no matter where you feel called to live more compassionately, do it with exuberance and bravery and a mindset of optimism and faith and abundance. And with the ruler of this peaceful moon being in Aries, the planet of war, let's just kind of hope that there's some settling of global violence or peace talks over the next 3 weeks to 6 months.
I also
Yeah.
think too that ruler Jupiter being Pisces may actually remind us back 12, 24 years ago of maybe, again, some of that creative things, how any of us, for instance, are into our music, play a ukulele or play a guitar, and we put it away sometimes. And now 12 years later, because that's the cycle of Jupiter, 12 years later, it may reminding us how much we actually really enjoyed that.
So how long ago was 24 years ago?
Well, we do 2023 minus 24, so that would have been 2009, maybe.
2009.
Anyway, it might give some of us some ideas, right, of what we enjoyed 12 years ago. And we may not necessarily have to put the intent that on this day, I'm going to think about this. The vibration of the energy just automatically happens.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I was just thinking back myself, and for me, Jupiter, so Jupiter would have been in what sign then?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head without actually looking up an ephemeris, but it's just that Jupiter's 12-year cycle. So anyway,
I was just thinking I was actually diving deep into a new group activity back then, not related to astrology, but here I am joining you guys now in this new group endeavor, 12 years later. So yeah, absolutely, totally makes sense. On this day, we have another biggest celestial event, though, we should talk about. Venus, the planet of love and pleasure and money, is moving into Aries. So Venus will be in Aries for about 4 weeks. Now, Venus is not very comfortable in the sign of Aries because Venus is all about harmony and peace and tenderness and mutual satisfaction, while Ram Aries is all about war and the self. And Venus is also the planet of negotiations. So again, I'm thinking we might see some peace talks happening, but with the sun in Pisces, this suggests to me that we might not see the full picture, and those coming to the table may not be completely honest and transparent. And I'd say over the next 4 weeks until Venus moves into its home sign of Taurus on May 2nd, where it loves to be, we can make the most of this energy by letting ourselves be spontaneous and more daring when it comes to romantic partnerships. It's also a prime energy for negotiating our needs in relationships and going after what we love. I think Venus in Aries is a great boost for being more courageous, for sure, in all of our relationships. And then finally, we're into the full swing of a new work week on Tuesday, February the 21st. Unfortunately, I don't think February 21st is the best day for everything going as scheduled. I think it's expect the unexpected and double check all of your communication before hitting send, because Mercury, the planet that rules over communication and devices is going to be in a stressful, intense conversation with Uranus, which is the planet of quick and sudden changes. And I think it's possible that many of us could find ourselves quite overstimulated and a bit impatient this day. We might easily be distracted, and there could possibly be conflicts in groups we belong to over differences in controversial or eccentric ideas. And the moon is also merging with Neptune on this day, which could have us feeling a bit sensitive. And Moon Neptune is making a friendly connection to truth exposing Pluto. So while Pluto is also supporting Uranus this day. So lots of connections between these planets, but Pluto, will be very powerful sitting at 29 degrees Capricorn in that final degree of the sign. And it's, Pluto, like we've talked about already, is all about destroying and rebuilding, while Uranus is all about liberation and breaking free. And I think Neptune represents, again, what we've talked about this, where we lack confidence in how we trip ourselves up. So these planets and the moon connecting like they are today tells me that whatever comes up out of the blue on February 21st, it's happening to help us break down and transform, maybe to heal any self-sabotaging behaviors. I think we're being nudged and supported in a pleasant way to stop holding on so obsessively to things like being concerned about our image, which is a very Capricorn type energy. And we're being encouraged to open our minds to the possibilities and, let go of the old and make room for the new. Because I think ultimately with Uranus and Taurus, where we're headed is going to be much more stable and secure and grounded. And then by February 22nd, the moon is going to move into Aries and begin to merge with Jupiter. So I think now we're starting to get some great stamina and lots of faith for dealing with the events of, the past few weeks and the days ahead. And Mars, the planet of action over there in Gemini, which is the sign of having fun and short day trips and learning something new, is the ruler of this moon for a couple of days. So, and I think, no, I don't know. Do you guys know what day Family Day is in Nova Scotia?
I don't know off the top of my head. No.
I don't know. Well, the moon energy is all about family, and Mercury is certainly about our Mars and Mercury certainly, says that this would be a great day to take a fun day trip or hang out with family or siblings and just do something spontaneous that makes you feel happy. And then finally, on the February 23rd, we find ourselves on the 64th day of winter, which is really hard to believe. But with only 27 days now left until spring, we might find ourselves feeling a bit impatient because we still have moon connecting with Jupiter and fire burning Aries. So my suggestion would be maybe, use this energy to engage in activities that are playful and sporty, childlike, burn off all the restlessness that we may be feeling. And yeah, that sums it up for me.
Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. So let's move forward. And one of the things I wanted to just cover for the whole thing, did anybody notice there were no oppositions with the planets? The only time we were getting any type of opposition was when the moon was going through. The moon was the only one in this whole month of February that created oppositions. Other than that, if people look at their own chart and they look at the outside rim, they look at Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, that's where the majority of the planets are actually hanging out right now. And in reality, it's always look to see what quadrant that actually holds within your chart. That's also something that's very, very interesting to watch. The other thing is Mars. Mars is out of bounds. Mars will be out of bounds until May of 2023. So all through the month of February, Mars will be annoying. Now, Mars will still in its shadow. It had gone to 28 degrees. It backed up to 8. It's at 17, so it haven't cleared its shadow yet, which means that Mars will all through the month of February still continue to have us doing things twice, rechecking, reacting, re-looking. On the 23rd, we do see Mars and Mercury having a trine together. But starting on the 24th, which was my day, we actually have the moon and north node coming up together. Moon and node, so the moon will connect with the nodes roughly every 29 days. North Node in Taurus is going to have us all questioning, is it worth spending that money? Is that really worth what it is that I am dreaming of? That sun in Pisces is dreaming. Is that really, I did piano lessons before and I kind of gave them up. Is it worth spending the money to do it again? The answer is yes. Why? Because we are not the same person that we were when we did it beforehand. So even though before you may not have stayed with it, you are not that same person. It is worth taking another look. What do you have to lose? Uranus is giving a square, making a square. We've got fixed signs. Taurus is fixed. Aquarius is fixed. So fixed to fixed, give us a square. Uranus is giving us unexpected thoughts towards that Mercury. What happens? Do I really want to be committed to do that? Aquarius likes their freedom. They like to have that sense of freedom. Uranus says, why should you spend the money if you're not going to be committed? Mercury goes, oh yeah, I know, but I could go for a little while. Uranus says, well, then are you going to spend the money or not? So it's an emotional day we're going to feel on that 24th. But remember, Mars is out of bounds. Don't let Mars, you have control of you. Don't let Mars take you on that full entire run. The 25th and the 26th sort of kind of comes together because now the moon has gone past Uranus, but it's still pulling on Uranus. You still have a bit of that pull that's going on there. We also may be able to find money. Look on your walk when you go into McDonald's. Is there a $10 bill in front of you? Uranus in Taurus on these kinds of days connected with the moon goes, oh, that's a surprise. I wasn't necessarily seeing that happening. When we get to March, we're going to see that Pluto will have stepped into the sign of Aquarius. As we're here in the later part of February, you guys already touched on it, Pluto sits at 29 degrees Capricorn. 29 degrees of any sign is what we call the critical degree. Let's sort of think about it. Let's say you got a deadline. You're building a house and your deadline is in 3 days' time. But oh my goodness, you didn't get this finished, this finished, this finished, this finished, and this finished. How are you going to feel? You're going to feel massively overwhelmed. I got to work on this. I got to make this happen. I got to get this happen. I got to get this into place. You're going to feel that with Pluto. Pluto is going to have all of us saying, I didn't get it finished. I didn't get it finished. I'm going to push on that to make that finish. And of course, that leads me into the 27th, where Mercury comes to talk to Saturn. Saturn's going to have their hands on the hip, and Saturn's going to say, so you signed up for this. You had the responsibility of this. Now, how are you doing with it? Mercury will say, well, I needed to have some freedom, the Aquarius. Saturn's going to go, talk to them. I don't care if you wanted to have some freedom, because the point is you signed up for it. It's your responsibility. You need to get it done. And you're going to find that on the 27th of February. Somebody around you is going to remind you as to what exactly it was you signed up to do. Did you do it? So you might want to have your excuses ready. Plus, we've got Mars coming to line up with the moon coming to line up with Mars. And the moon and Mars, the moon don't particularly like being in Gemini. Mars don't particularly like being in Gemini. So to me, I think this is like a massive swirling energy kind of a day. In medical astrology, you're going to find this all in your throat area, your glands. You're going to feel this. All of this is actually in sextile. We like sextiles. We talked about squares and a square formation. We don't particularly like squares. Squares create annoyances. We like trines. trying to work very well together. And we kind of like sextiles. Moon and Mars together. So they're sitting in the same seat here. Emotionally, I'm having this conversation. I'm talking all over the place. Gemini is scattered energy. I'm talking all over the place with this Mars. I'm trying to get it all out really, 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 really quickly on how it is that we're going to make our way forward. Now, unfortunately, Jupiter is playing with Chiron. Chiron in our own personal chart has to do with our Achilles heel. Jupiter and Chiron in the sign of Aries, Jupiter really wants to be the leader. Chiron says, am I tall enough, cute enough, fat enough, skinny enough, smart enough, you know? And that moon in Mars is saying, make up your damn mind. You're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. What are you going to do? Jupiter's going, oh, but I really want to be that leader. Like I really want to be the person in front of the gate. Maybe somebody else around me will recognize that energy with us. And that's going to be a big energy. Again, I invite everybody to come back to, what do you have to lose? And you need to answer that question yourself, because we make up all kinds of lies that we actually tell ourselves. Call yourself on your own lies on that day. And also remember, we talked about the eclipse energy from November 8th, 2022. I hope if everybody keeps a diary, you go back to there. We had a lunar eclipse. And for those of you that's been following me for years, you know what I talk about with eclipse energy. Eclipse energy up in the sky, in that exact area of the sky, it sets up a quickening. Not much happens right at the eclipse, but when you've got planets that go through that corridor, it then shakes up the planets just like that. And the day that the moon, we talked about sort of around that 25, 26, the moon itself is going to be right at that alignment. Now, Tracey mentioned about the US elections took place during that November date. When the moon is lined up with Uranus, again, that 25, 26, check in to see what's happening. Are some of the people stepping up to the plate that said they would and then didn't, and then got found out and then didn't, and now can't, and, you know, always there are cycles. And always in your own life, check in your own chart. What house does Taurus show up in? Because there was an event, might have been a very small little event that took place around that 8th of November. When we get to that 25, 26, you're going to be reminded of that. And you may come to the realization, you know what, I didn't really want to do that anyway. That was just sort of a bit of an illusion on my part. And then to finish off on the 28th, we've got Pluto at a biquintile with the moon. Biquintiles are so interesting in our charts because it is just that we know the answer on a biquintile. There is a huge internal side to us. And not only is Pluto sitting at 29 degrees, but now Saturn is at 29 degrees. So hence my word had been about foreshadowing. This is such a foreshadowing coming into March, where we're going to see a massive change of energy. Jupiter is going to come to line up with Chiron. Will you step up to the plate? Is the real question. Jupiter will be asking you to do that. Jupiter will be saying, let's get rid of the fear. Let's get rid of the BS we've been telling ourselves all the time. Let's get rid of all of that type of energy that is really not of any use anymore. We're also going to see in 2023, we're also going to see the nodal axis is going to come out of Taurus and Scorpio and go into Aries and Libra. So again, this is a huge, big foreshadowing. Next month, we're going to spend time about Pluto going into Aquarius. We're going to talk about Saturn going into Pisces. There are huge, huge changes. What we have going for us, though, somebody mentioned it there, there is nothing retrograding. Everything is full steam ahead, number one. Number two, there are no oppositions. So there should not be people, places, and things stepping in our way, opposing us. The only thing opposing us is us. So with Jupiter coming to Chiron, again, I question, will you step up to the plate? Anybody have any last words you'd like to offer? Or Tracey, we'll start with you, since you don't have to, but I just thought I would. Any final closing words you'd like to offer?
I'm just counting down all the last times that the moon is touching Saturn. Like we are, we have so many sleeps left. We're counting down. It's like we're counting down for Christmas. It's like the Advent calendar. And I just, every time we go around, it's like, oh, one left.
Susan, how about you? Any final words you'd like to offer? Or
Well, for me, February it's like all about doing our inner work and moving forward with our goals and being community focused. Always, I seem to always hit on community focus, but that's very Aquarian. Following our dreams and working towards our own true self-discovery, and always being ready for the unexpected, of course. So, because I have to tell you this, when Uranus went direct on Sunday, that's when the heating element in my hot water tank stopped working. So I don't think my tank is old, so I think I have to get a new tank. So that's my little Uranian experience.
but you probably had an indication of that in July when Uranus started to retrograde, did you? Perhaps?
No, not
Okay.
really, not really.
How
But,
about last November? Was there a small leak of any way, shape, or form?
No, November at that time was all during the south node on my moon. So that was all a period of illness for me.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Tanya, any final last words?
Well, I started the top of the show with kind of a darker word, turmoil. So I'll end on a more positive note. My favorite aspect of the month, which is Venus meeting up with Neptune in Pisces just after Valentine's Day. I know we talked a little bit about the shadow side of, Neptune and Pisces energy, but I really think that, this is the last time we'll see those two meeting up until next April. And I think it's a wonderful time to be compassionate and to be kind and to do something really nice for somebody who might be suffering or sick or just going through some adversity.
Great. Thank you to everyone. Thank you for everyone for taking the time out of your day, your special day, to watch our planetary panel. I hope you tune into March because the planets are all waiting. Thank you to everyone. See you. Bye-bye.